Hey guys, I'm the Comics Kid 2099, and this is the last Hulk review of the week. So if you were getting tired of me talking about the Hulk after today, you're not going to have to worry about it for a very long time. Today I want to talk about the final volume in Bruce Jones's run on the Hulk from the early 2000s. Hulk, Big Things. This is volume 8 of an 8-part run, and honestly, I didn't enjoy this book very much. In fact, I think now that I've read the entire run of Bruce Jones's whole time on the Hulk, I think I would have to say I didn't even enjoy his run nearly as much as I thought I was at first. I will say, if you've ever watched the TV series Twin Peaks, this whole run on the Hulk was very much like that, in that it starts off very engaging. You have all these mysteries, all these questions, and you're wondering, okay, what are the answers to these questions? And then the further you get into it, the more you realize that the people behind this series really have no idea what they're doing, and then it just kind of keeps going, and it meanders, and it eventually just falls apart and just kind of crashes and burns at the end. And I would have to say that's the best metaphor I can come up with for this whole run. The first 2 volumes that I reviewed, the big 2 hardcovers, which is I think the first 4 storylines in this whole run, that was all just set up. And then, as I've said, and basically you've heard all of this if you've been listening to my videos this week, and then Volume 5 was just kind of a departure from all of that. You did not have any of the espionage, any of that stuff that had been going on in the previous 4 stories. You didn't have any of that in Volume 5. And then Volume 6 is kind of sort of the big finale. It seems like it wraps everything up. And then Volume 7, in a way, it does keep going with some of the plots that had been introduced up until that point, but it is not nearly as good as Volume 6. And now, Volume 8, over half of this is basically just Marvel team-up. As you saw on the cover here, you've got Iron Man and the Hulk fighting. Literally 2/3 of this book is Hulk and, or rather, Bruce Banner and Tony Stark are trying to work on a Gamma project because the government is afraid that an enemy country or a terrorist or somebody is going to get a hold of a Gamma bomb and they are going to attack Washington, D.C., and even though that would only destroy like several thousand feet of area, even though it wouldn't destroy all that much, if they destroyed the right area, then it would cause the economic collapse of America and a good deal part of Europe as well. And so these guys are working on a way to create a Iron Man suit that can be worn by anybody and it can absorb gamma particles. And frankly, I'm not really sure how this would be of any use if a terrorist was able to get a hold of a gamma bomb and they used it on Washington, D.C., because sure, it would destroy the gamma particles, but you would still have Washington, D.C. destroyed. But whatever, they are trying to create this suit, and that's basically what's going on for the first 2/3 of this book. And then there's a murder mystery going on. This book follows the same, what I felt was kind of a problem. A while back I reviewed a Wolverine Punisher miniseries from the 1990s, and that miniseries had this thing where Wolverine has this girlfriend who he's apparently in love with, and he's known her for months, and he's been dating her for months, even though we have never seen her before. And the only reason that the book has introduced this girl, who is apparently really serious with Wolverine, is so that Wolverine can have a reason to really make this personal once she gets killed. And that's kind of the same thing that's going on here, where this girl that's really close to Tony dies, and then we are wondering, okay, how is this going to play out? And then her brother, her older brother, is coming and trying to kill Tony, and Tony's blaming himself for this. And it's one of those things where we've never seen this character before, yet we are told that it's a huge deal for Tony that she died. And that's kind of lazy writing, in my opinion. I really don't know if there's any other way to do that, but the problem is you can't just introduce this character retroactively and say that they were important to our protagonist and then kill them off and use that as a reason for our protagonist to be acting in the way that they do in this story. And in this case, it's not even the protagonist. It's just a guest star in Tony Stark. And speaking of that, I did have a problem with this. This entire run has been pretty secluded from the Marvel Universe, pretty isolated, if you will. And personally, I like that because I don't have that much knowledge of the Hulk. I don't know a whole lot about the Hulk, and frankly, I don't know a whole lot about the rest of the Marvel Universe. Basically, the X-Men, and that's about it. And then other than that, it's just minor stories here and there, and I'm not really very knowledgeable about the Fantastic Four, or Iron Man, or the Avengers, etc. And so, I was very okay with this run being just its own thing, and you didn't have 40 years of Hulk stories that you had to read and be familiar with to understand what was going on here. I was fine with that. And up until now, it was doing a pretty good job of being an isolated part of the Marvel Universe where you don't need to know the rest of the Marvel Universe to know what's going on. And then this book throws in Iron Man as a guest star, and it really feels very jarring. That's a word I keep using a lot in this run, but it really is very jarring when suddenly you've got this other major part of the Marvel Universe thrown in there. It would have been fine, I think, if the Hulk, if Iron Man had been a part of this run from earlier on. Maybe if somehow Tony and Doc Samson were working together trying to track down the Hulk, because maybe Tony feels he and Bruce Banner kind of have this connection. They're both men of science, only Tony is the beloved son that everyone adores, and Bruce Banner is the redheaded stepchild that nobody likes. If they had done something kind of like that, it would have been fine if Tony Stark had been here from the beginning, but they just throw him in here in the last volume, and it's kind of like if you're watching a movie, and then in the last 15 minutes of the movie, you have this guest star who's a really well-known actor, and they just show up out of nowhere in the last 10 or 15 minutes of the movie. It's really distracting if that character actor isn't present in the movie for the rest of the film. It's kind of like that. So I really had a problem with that. Also, this book does finally conclude all of the stuff about home base. I remember in one of my earlier videos where I was talking about this run, I mentioned that Hulk was on the run from the American government. I was stupid. That is not what was going on here. It is meaning you to think that that's what's going on. If you go back and read the earlier parts of this run, it definitely wants you to think that it is a part of the American government that is chasing down the Hulk. But this book reveals that no, that's not what's going on. It's just a, well, I'm not going to tell you who it is. I will say the reveal as to why this person is doing what they're doing is a little bit disappointing. If you go back and read all of this, they are telling you that there's one thing going on. Up until even Volume 7, they're saying this is what's going on. And then in Volume 8, it's like, nope, just kidding, this other thing is going on. And their revelation as to why this character is doing what he is doing is pretty disappointing, as I said. And it's really one of those things, because 2/3 of this book is an Iron Man story that doesn't really have anything to do with anything else that was going on in this book. They don't have a whole lot of time to tie up any loose ends left over. It's almost like after doing this story where Bruce and Iron Man are building an Iron Man suit, then it's like, oh yeah, I forgot, we have this big plot of who is running home base. We need to kind of tie all that up in the span of 2 issues. And that's really disappointing. It doesn't really make any sense. It doesn't... there's this character, he has this certain power, and you're wondering, okay, why didn't this character use that power way back at the beginning of this run? And even a character in this story asks that very question. They say, why didn't you just do that? And the character says, well, it would have been too hard. And it just doesn't make any sense. Why is the character able to use that power now, but they weren't able to 3 or 4 volumes ago? Really, this whole run, as I said, it starts off really enjoyable. If I had to go back, if I could retroactively tell you which parts of this run to read and which parts to ignore, I hate to say it, I would probably just say read the first 2 hardcovers, which is the first 4 volumes of this run. Read those volumes, and I would say you'll have a whole lot of fun. It's very much like the 1970s, 1980s Bill Bixby TV series. It's a lot like that. I think you'll have a whole lot of fun reading this series if you just keep in mind that it's kind of like that TV show. And then ignore everything else, because it really just starts to go downhill the longer that this run goes on. And I don't know if Bruce Jones was just tired of writing the Hulk, and so he just wanted to kind of wrap things up with, frankly, a very lazy conclusion to all of what he was doing here. I don't know if that's what's going on, or if maybe he was told, hey, you're going to be moved off of this book, and we're going to put Peter David on this book after you leave. I don't know what was going on behind the scenes, but I can tell you that this book is ultimately a disappointing conclusion to what was frankly a little bit more than half of a disappointing run. I would say over half of this run was kind of disappointing. You have this volume, and then you have volume 7, which I liked more than volume 5, but not as much as volume 6, and then you have volume 5. That's 3 volumes that I was hit or miss on, and out of 8, that's not good. But like I said, that's more than half that was pretty good. But the thing is, I would say just read the first 4 volumes of this whole run, and you'll be good. If you are a Hulk fan, then you've already read all this, probably. And if you're not a Hulk fan, I would definitely just say skip past all this, go look at something else that has the Hulk in it, maybe. Unfortunately, I can't really recommend this book, or really a lot of this run. It just doesn't hold together very well. If you're looking at it all as one giant, really drawn-out story, which is how I was looking at it, it just doesn't work. It's kind of like Chapter 8 is telling you, okay, everything that happened in the first 7 chapters didn't really happen in the way that you thought it did. And it's just not done very well. That's all I have to say here. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to say I don't recommend this book. So if you liked this video, maybe you did, maybe you didn't. If you did, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I will be back tomorrow with a look at an episode of Batman Beyond. So come back tomorrow to see what I've got going on then. And I will probably be back with a few more videos next week. Not really sure what I will be doing. I have at least one in mind. So I'll be back next week with some other kinds of videos. So until then, I'll see you guys later. Have a great day.